I stood on my daughter's porch, arms full of everything I'd spent days preparing. The roast beef was still warm in its foil wrapping, 3 pies balanced carefully in my hands. Presents for all 6 grandkids weighed down my shopping bags. Christmas Eve had always been our night, our tradition. I knocked 3 times, then waited. The house was dark, except for one upstairs window. I knocked again, louder this time. My heart started racing. Had something happened? My phone buzzed. A text from my daughter Kate. "Sorry, Mom, we all came down with the flu. Christmas dinner is off. Take care." I stared at the message, reading it twice. The flu? All of them? On Christmas Eve? I looked back at the dark house, then at the food getting cold in my arms. My stomach dropped. I walked back to my car slowly, loading everything into the back seat. The drive home felt endless. When I pulled into my driveway, my neighbor Mrs. Peterson waved from her window. I forced a smile and waved back. Inside my empty house, I sat the food on my kitchen counter. The silence felt heavy. 23 years of hosting Christmas, and this was the first time I'd be alone. I heated up a plate of the roast beef and sat at my dining table. The same table where my 3 kids used to fight over who got the biggest slice of pie. Where they'd open presents while I cleaned dishes. Where I'd watch them grow up, year after year. The Christmas tree lights blinked in the corner. I'd decorated it 2 weeks ago, thinking about how excited the grandkids would be. How we'd take pictures by the fireplace, how Kate would complain about her husband's family traditions, and my son Michael would show up late, but with the biggest smile. My youngest, Tommy, always brought his guitar. He'd play Christmas songs while we cleaned up. Not perfectly, but with so much joy that it didn't matter. Now it was just me, eating dinner in silence. The food tasted good, but every bite felt wrong. Empty. Like I was eating memories instead of a meal. I turned on the TV and found an old Christmas movie. Jimmy Stewart was learning what life would be like if he'd never been born. I pulled a blanket over my lap and tried to focus on the screen, but my mind kept drifting to that dark house and the flu that came so suddenly. Christmas morning felt strange. No phone calls, no kids rushing over with coffee breath and messy hair, no chaos of wrapping paper and squealing grandchildren. Just me, sitting in my robe, drinking coffee that tasted too strong. Around noon, Mrs. Peterson knocked on my door. She held her phone in her hand, looking uncomfortable. "Allison, honey, I need to show you something." My heart started pounding before I even saw the screen. There, on Kate's social media page, was a photo posted 2 hours ago. All 3 of my children, their spouses, and my 6 grandkids. Sitting around a beautifully decorated dining table, smiling, laughing, perfectly healthy. The caption read, "Best Christmas dinner ever, so grateful for family time." I stared at the photo until my eyes burned. Kate looked radiant in a red dress I'd never seen. Michael wore the sweater I'd bought him last year. Tommy had his arm around his wife, both of them grinning at the camera. No flu, no sickness, no emergency, just a celebration. Without me. Mrs. Peterson squeezed my shoulder. "I'm so sorry, dear. I thought you should know." I sat in my living room for hours, staring at nothing. The photo kept replaying in my mind. Their faces, their smiles, the way they looked so happy without me there. This wasn't the first time, was it? Last Thanksgiving, Kate had called an hour before dinner, saying her oven was broken. I'd offered to host, but she said they'd just order pizza and keep it small. Later, I found out from Tommy's wife that they'd all gone to Michael's house instead. My birthday last year. None of them showed up. Kate said work was crazy. Michael said his daughter had a soccer game. Tommy said his car wouldn't start. But when I drove past the park later, I saw Michael's whole family at the playground, laughing and taking pictures. How long had this been going on? How many times had they made plans around me instead of with me? I walked to my kitchen and looked at all the leftover food. Enough to feed 12 people. I'd spent 3 days cooking, shopping, wrapping presents. 68 years old, and I was still trying to prove I was worth including. My hands shook as I poured another cup of coffee. Something inside my chest felt broken. Not my heart. Something deeper. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the pattern I'd been blind to. The phone calls that only came when they needed something. The visits that always ended with requests for money or favors. The way they'd light up when I offered to help, but grow distant when I tried to just talk. When was the last time one of them had called just to check on me? When was the last time they'd asked about my day, my health, my dreams? I couldn't remember. I thought about Kate asking for the $5,000 I'd saved for my Hawaii trip. Mom, we really need it for the patio remodel. It would mean so much to the kids. So I'd given it to her. The trip could wait, I'd told myself. Family comes first. Michael had my credit card information saved on his Amazon account. Just for emergencies, Mom. But the charges came monthly. Groceries, electronics, clothes for the kids. I never said anything because I wanted to help. Tommy borrowed money for his business ideas that never worked out. $8,000 here, $3,000 there. I'll pay you back as soon as it takes off, Mom. You believe in me, right? I did believe in them. But they didn't believe in me. They saw me as a wallet with legs, a useful grandmother who'd always say yes. Well, maybe it was time to start saying no. The next morning, I called the bank. I'd like to cancel a credit card, I told the representative. She asked which one. The one my son has been using, I said. I want it stopped immediately. Then I called Kate. She answered on the fourth ring, sounding rushed. Hey, Mom, what's up? I'm getting the kids ready for swimming lessons. I want my $5,000 back, I said simply. Silence. Then a nervous laugh. Mom, what are you talking about? That money went toward the patio. It's done already. We can't exactly unbuild it. Then I guess you'll have to find another way to pay me back. Mom, are you feeling okay? You sound different. Maybe you should see Dr. Williams about your blood pressure. I'd been taking care of my own health for 68 years. I didn't need my daughter's fake concern now. My blood pressure is fine, Kate. My vision is getting clearer every day. She hung up without saying goodbye. 30 minutes later, my phone rang again. Michael this time. Mom, Kate told me you're being weird about money. What's going on? Are you having memory problems? Memory problems. As if wanting my own money back was a sign of dementia. By evening, all three of my children had called. Not to apologize for Christmas Eve. Not to explain the lie about the flu. They called to complain about the credit card being canceled and my sudden attitude about money. Tommy was the angriest. You can't just cut me off like this. I've got bills to pay. The business is finally taking off. What business? I asked. The food truck that failed? The app idea that never got built? Or the new one you haven't told me about yet? You don't believe in me anymore, he said, his voice cracking like a teenager's. I believed in you for 30 years, Tommy. I gave you everything I had, but believing in someone doesn't mean enabling them forever. He hung up. Michael called back an hour later. Mom, you're tearing this family apart. We love you, but you're being unreasonable. We've always been close. Don't you remember how we used to spend every holiday together? Used to. Past tense. Because apparently we didn't anymore. Where were you Christmas Eve, Michael? Another pause. We told you we were sick. I saw the photos. The longest pause yet. Mom, I think you need help. Maybe it's time to consider assisted living. There are some really nice places that... I hung up. Assisted living. They'd rather put me in a home than admit they'd lied to my face. The next week, Tommy showed up at my house unannounced. I watched from my living room window as he walked to my door. He still had his key from years ago when he'd lived here during his transitional period that lasted 2 years. I heard him try the door. It was locked. He knocked. Mom? I know you're home. Your car's here. I sat quietly on my couch. He knocked again, louder. Mom, I just need to grab some groceries. I'll pay you back Friday when I get paid. Groceries. He wanted to raid my pantry like he had dozens of times before, taking whatever he needed and leaving me to restock. I'd always told myself it was helping. Now I realized it was enabling. Mom, please. I know you're mad, but I'm hungry. My paycheck got delayed. His paycheck was always getting delayed. Or he'd been let go unfairly. Or the boss was playing favorites. There was always a reason why Tommy couldn't take care of himself, and always a reason why I should. I turned up the volume on my TV and kept watching my show. After 20 minutes, I heard his car start up and drive away. That night, I changed the locks. Michael called the next day, furious. You changed the locks? What kind of mother locks out her own children? The kind who's tired of being used, I said. Used. Mom, we're family. Family helps each other. When was the last time you helped me, Michael? He stuttered. We help you all the time. We visit, we bring the kids over. When? When was the last time you visited without needing something? Silence. When was the last time you called just to talk? When was the last time you asked how I was feeling, what I was doing, if I needed anything? More silence. You help yourselves to my money, my food, my house, but you don't help me. You use me, and I'm done being used. You're abandoning your family, he said, his voice getting louder. These are your children, your grandchildren. You can't just shut us out because you're having some kind of midlife crisis. I'm 68, Michael. If this is a midlife crisis, I'm planning to live to be 136. He didn't laugh. This isn't you, Mom. You've always been there for us. You've always put family first. I put you first. There's a difference. That evening, my phone buzzed with a group text message. All 3 of my children were in the chat. Kate, Mom, we need to talk about your recent behavior. This isn't like you. We're worried. You're being really hurtful. We're your kids. I stared at the messages. They were worried. They were hurt. Where was their worry when they lied to me on Christmas Eve? Where was their concern when they took my money and disappeared? More messages came in rapid fire. Kate, we think you should talk to someone professional. Maybe Dr. Williams can recommend a therapist. Or we could look into some memory care options. There it was again. Memory care. As if standing up for myself was a sign of mental illness. I typed back, I remember everything perfectly. I remember every lie, every excuse, every time you took advantage of my love. We never took advantage of you. Everything we did was out of love. You're choosing to be alone. That's not our fault. I read their messages twice, then did something I'd never done before. I blocked all 3 of their numbers. The silence that followed felt like freedom. The first week without their calls and texts was strange. I kept reaching for my phone, expecting to see messages asking for money or favors. But there was nothing. Just peace. I redecorated my living room. I'd always wanted a blue couch, but Kate had said blue was too bold for someone my age. I bought the brightest blue couch I could find. I hung new pictures on the walls, landscapes and flowers, instead of family photos that made me feel sad. I started reading again. Real books, not just the magazines I'd flipped through while waiting for their calls. I joined the library's book club and met a woman named Helen who made me laugh until my sides hurt. I took long walks around my neighborhood and noticed things I'd missed for years. Mrs. Peterson had a beautiful garden. The young couple 3 houses down always waved when they saw me. The sunrise looked different when you weren't stressed about who might need money that day. My house felt bigger somehow, quieter, but in a good way. Like I could finally breathe. For the first time in years, I went grocery shopping for just myself. I bought things I liked, instead of things my family would eat when they visited. Fancy cheese, good wine, chocolate that I didn't have to hide. My birthday was coming up in February. Normally, I'd start planning weeks ahead, trying to coordinate everyone's schedules. This year, I decided to do something different. I invited Helen from book club, Mrs. Peterson, and 3 other women I'd met at the library. I told them to bring their appetites and their best stories. No gifts, no fuss, just friendship. The morning of my birthday, I baked my own cake, lemon with cream cheese frosting. I set the table with my good dishes, the ones I'd been saving for special occasions. Today felt special enough. My guests arrived with flowers, wine, and homemade treats. We talked for hours about books, travel, grandchildren who called regularly, and dreams we still wanted to pursue. Helen had been to Italy last year. Mrs. Peterson was taking painting classes. Everyone had stories of adventures and plans for more. I realized I hadn't talked about my own dreams in years. I'd been so focused on my children's needs that I'd forgotten I had wants too. I've always wanted to see the ocean, I said. Really see it, not just pictures. So go, said Helen. What's stopping you? For the first time in months, I thought about that $5,000 I'd given Kate. Money that was supposed to take me to Hawaii. Money I'd given away because I thought being useful was more important than being happy. 2 weeks later, Kate showed up at my door. I almost didn't answer, but she kept knocking. When I finally opened it, she looked angry and desperate. Mom, we need to talk. This silent treatment has gone on long enough. I'm not giving you the silent treatment, I said. I'm just not available for use anymore. She pushed past me into the living room, then stopped. What did you do to this place? Where are all the family pictures? I put them away. Why? We're your family. Family doesn't lie about having the flu. Family doesn't exclude you from Christmas and then pretend it's for your own good. Her face turned red. We thought it would be easier if you didn't have to pretend to enjoy my company. That's not. Mom, you have to help me with the house refinancing. The bank wants a cosigner, and you're the only one with good enough credit. There it was. The real reason for her visit. No, I said simply. No, Mom, if we don't refinance, we could lose the house. Your grandchildren could be homeless. Then, maybe you should have thought about that before lying to me. Her voice got shrill. If you don't help us, you'll never see those grandkids again. Is that what you want? I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. When had she become someone who threatened me with my own grandchildren? Don't threaten me, Kate. After Kate left, I didn't hear from any of them for months. No calls, no texts, no surprise visits. The silence was complete. I filled the quiet with new routines. Morning walks, afternoon reading, evening cooking shows on TV. I started a small garden in my backyard and learned that I was good at growing tomatoes. Who knew? I took a watercolor painting class at the community center. My first painting was terrible, a lopsided house that looked like it was melting. But my instructor, a patient woman named Carol, encouraged me to keep trying. By month 3, I was painting flowers that actually looked like flowers. I joined a senior hiking group that met every Tuesday. We walked through parks and nature trails, talking about everything except ungrateful children. Most of the women had similar stories. Kids who called when they needed money, grandchildren used as bargaining chips, love that felt more like obligation. The hardest part, said a woman named Betty, is realizing you raised them to be this way. By always saying yes, by always rescuing them, by teaching them that your love was conditional on your usefulness. I thought about that for weeks. Had I taught my children that love meant giving them whatever they wanted? Had I confused being needed with being loved? Spring turned into summer, and I started hearing things through mutual friends. My children were telling people I was going through something, that I was being difficult and selfish, that they were worried about my mental health because I'd suddenly stopped helping family. Mrs. Peterson told me that Kate had asked her to keep an eye on me because I was acting strange. Strange, apparently, meant buying a blue couch and changing the locks. She asked if you were eating okay, Mrs. Peterson said. I told her you looked healthier than I'd seen you in years. It was true. I'd lost 15 pounds from walking and eating better. My skin looked clearer. People at the grocery store commented that I seemed more cheerful. Even my doctor was impressed with my blood pressure at my last checkup. Whatever you're doing, he'd said, keep it up. You look 10 years younger. I was doing something I'd never done before, living for myself. Michael's ex-wife called me one afternoon. We'd always gotten along, even after the divorce. Allison, I need you to know something, she said. Michael told the kids you don't want to see them anymore. That you're angry at the whole family. My heart sank. That's not true. I know. I wanted you to know that I know. By fall, I made some important decisions. I went to see a lawyer and updated all my financial documents. My children were removed as emergency contacts. My friend Helen was now my power of attorney. My will was changed to reflect my new understanding of family. I opened a new bank account that none of them knew about. I transferred most of my savings there. If they thought I was losing my mind, they wouldn't be surprised when the old account showed less money. I updated my insurance policies and medical directives. Every document that had once listed my children as primary contacts now listed people who actually cared about my well-being, not my wallet. The lawyer, a kind woman about my daughter's age, reviewed everything carefully. Are you sure about these changes? She asked. I've never been more sure of anything. Family situations can be complicated, she said gently. Sometimes people change. You're right, I said. I've changed. I finally learned my worth isn't measured by how much I give away. That night, I booked a trip to Hawaii, not the budget trip I'd planned before, the deluxe package. Oceanfront hotel, sunset dinners, snorkeling lessons. I was 71 years old, and I was finally going to see the Pacific Ocean. The Hawaii trip was everything I dreamed it would be. I spent a week walking on beaches, reading books under palm trees, and taking pictures of sunsets that look like paintings. I learned to snorkel and saw fish in colors I didn't know existed. I met other travelers, mostly couples, but they welcomed me into their dinner conversations and sightseeing plans. One evening, a man named Frank asked me to dance during the hotel's live music night. I hadn't danced in years, but I said yes. We weren't graceful, but we laughed until our cheeks hurt. "Your children must be proud of you for taking this trip," Frank said as we swayed to a slow song. "They don't know I'm here," I said. He raised his eyebrows but didn't ask more questions. Some stories were too long for a dance floor conversation. On my last day, I sat on the beach and wrote in the journal I'd brought. I wrote about the fish I'd seen, the sunsets I'd watched, the freedom I'd felt. I also wrote letters I'd never send. To my children, explaining why I'd had to step away, why I'd had to choose myself for once. When I got home, Mrs. Peterson said she'd seen Michael drive by the house twice while I was gone. "Looking for your car, I think," she said. A month after I returned from Hawaii, I found 3 handwritten letters in my mailbox. They were for my grandchildren, Kate's kids. The oldest, Lucy, was 15 now. The letters were clearly written without their parents' knowledge. "Dear Grandma," Lucy's letter began. "Mom said you don't want to see us anymore because we're too loud and messy. She said you're sick and need quiet. But I remember how you used to laugh when we were loud. I miss your cookies and the way you let us help in the kitchen even when we made messes." Her younger brother Jake had written, "Dad said you moved away, but Mrs. Peterson said you still live in the same house. I'm confused. Are you mad at us? I'm sorry if we broke something." The youngest, Emma, had drawn a picture of stick figures under a Christmas tree. "I miss you, Grandma. Love, Emma." I cried reading those letters. These children had been told I didn't want them, that I was sick, angry, or had moved away. They'd been used as weapons in a war I never wanted to fight. I wrote back to each of them, careful letters that didn't blame their parents but made it clear I loved them. I told them I wasn't sick or angry with them. I said I hoped to see them again someday. I mailed the letters to their school, knowing their parents would intercept anything sent to the house. Winter came, and I'd been living my new life for almost a year. The holidays didn't hurt anymore. I volunteered at a soup kitchen on Thanksgiving and helped serve Christmas dinner at the community center. Being useful to people who appreciated it felt different than being used by people who expected it. One evening, Tommy called from a number I didn't recognize. He was crying. "Mom, please talk to me. I know I messed up. I know we all did. But I'm clean now. I've been sober for 6 months, and I'm working a real job. I want to make things right." I listened to his whole speech, the apologies, the promises, the requests for another chance. At the end, he said, "I just need a little help getting back on my feet. Could you loan me $3,000 for a security deposit on an apartment?" And there it was, the real reason for the call. "No, Tommy," I said softly, "but Mom, I'm really trying this time. This is different. I've heard that before. So you're just going to abandon me, your own son?" "I'm not abandoning you. I'm just not enabling you anymore." I hung up and blocked that number too. A week later, my phone rang from another unknown number. Michael this time. "Mom, Tommy told me you hung up on him. He's really struggling." "He's 35 years old, Michael. He needs to struggle. That's how people learn. You can't just cut us all off forever." "I'm not cutting you off. I'm just not available for withdrawal anymore." I blocked that number too. 5 years passed. 5 Christmas mornings without family drama. 5 birthdays celebrated with friends who chose to be there. 5 years of living for myself, growing stronger, becoming the person I'd forgotten I could be. I moved to a small coastal town about an hour from my old house. My new home was smaller, but filled with light. I could see the ocean from my bedroom window. I joined a pottery class, a book club, and a group that walked the beach every morning at sunrise. I taught watercolor painting to beginners at the community center. My students were mostly retirees like me, people discovering talents they'd buried under years of taking care of everyone else. We painted terrible pictures and laughed at our mistakes and celebrated small improvements. I had a routine I loved: coffee on my porch at dawn, painting in the afternoons, dinner with friends twice a week, phone calls with my grandchildren, who were old enough now to contact me directly. They visited sometimes, telling their parents they were staying with friends, but really taking the bus to see me. I wasn't lonely. I was peaceful. There's a difference. My health was better than it had been in years. My doctor said I had the vitality of someone 20 years younger. Turns out, stress really does age you. Thanksgiving morning, I was making coffee when I heard a knock on my door. 3 knocks? Then silence. Just like Christmas Eve 6 years ago. I looked through the peephole, and my heart stopped. All 3 of my children stood on my porch. They looked older, worn down. Kate's hair was gray at the roots. Michael had deep lines around his eyes. Tommy looked thin but healthier than I'd seen him in years. No cameras, no phones, no staging for social media, just 3 middle-aged people who looked nervous and sad. I opened the door but didn't speak. "Mom," Kate said, her voice shaking, "can we talk to you?" I studied their faces. Kate was crying already. Michael kept looking at his feet. Tommy stood behind them, hands shoved in his pockets. I stepped aside and let them in. They sat on my couch. The blue one Kate had said was too bold. They looked around my new house, taking in the paintings I'd done, the books stacked everywhere, the photos of my new friends and adventures. "You look good, Mom," Michael said quietly. I sat across from them in my favorite chair and waited. "We were wrong," Kate said finally. "We were so wrong." She was really crying now, not the manipulative tears I'd seen before. These were different, deeper. "We treated you like a bank instead of a mother," Michael added. "We took advantage of your love." Tommy spoke up. "I've been in therapy for 2 years. My counselor helped me see how selfish I was, how we all were." I listened without saying anything. After years of them not listening to me, they could sit with the silence for a while. "The Christmas thing," Kate continued. "That was my idea. I thought it would be easier to have dinner without worrying about money requests or guilt. But we realized we weren't avoiding awkwardness. We were avoiding you." "We missed you," Michael said. "We've missed you every holiday for 5 years. We tried to pretend we were fine without you," Tommy added. "But we weren't. We were never fine." Kate wiped her eyes. "We know we don't deserve forgiveness. We know we hurt you in ways that can't be undone. But we wanted you to know that we finally understand what we lost." I made tea while they sat quietly. When I came back, they were looking at a painting I'd done of the ocean sunset from Hawaii. "You went to Hawaii," Kate said softly. "I did. With the money you asked me to pay back?" "Eventually, yes," she nodded. "It's beautiful. The painting, I mean. You're really talented. I had time to practice. We talked for 3 hours. Really talked, maybe for the first time in years. I told them about my new town, my art classes, my friends, about the grandchildren's letters and how much their visits meant to me. About the peace I'd found in choosing myself. "We want to be in your life again," Kate said. "But only if you want us there. Only if we can prove we've changed." "We don't want your money," Michael added. "We want our mother back." I looked at my children, really looked at them. They were different. Humbler, more honest than they'd been in years. But I was different too. Stronger, more aware of my worth. "I forgave you a long time ago," I said finally. "But I had to heal first." That Christmas was different from any we'd had before. They came to my new house, bringing food to share instead of expecting me to cook everything. My grandchildren were older but still excited to see the ocean. We walked on the beach in the morning, looking for shells and sea glass. Lucy, now 20, helped me set the table with my good dishes. Jake, 18, asked about my painting supplies and wanted to try watercoloring. Emma, 15, curled up next to me on the couch while we watched Christmas movies. Nobody asked for money. Nobody complained about anything. When Kate's phone rang, she turned it off without answering. "Work can wait," she said. "I'm with my mom." During dinner, Tommy raised his glass of sparkling cider. "To Mom," he said, "for teaching us the difference between being needed and being loved." We clinked glasses around the table. Kate squeezed my hand. Michael smiled at me across the table. The grandchildren chattered about their plans for the week they were staying with me. After dinner, we all helped clean up. Nobody disappeared to make phone calls or check social media. We decorated the tree together, hanging ornaments I'd collected from my travels. The top was crooked, but nobody cared. My children had come back. but they came back to a different mother. One who had boundaries, who knew her worth, who wouldn't sacrifice herself to keep them comfortable. And they stayed because they missed me, not my money. They apologized because they meant it, not because they needed something. They asked for my forgiveness because they valued our relationship, not because they wanted access to my resources. Some stories end with dramatic revenge. Some end with cutting people off forever. But my story ended with something better, a family that finally learned to love each other the right way. I raised my coffee cup to the stars. Here's to second chances, I whispered to the ocean breeze. The waves whispered back, welcome home.